Very few inscriptions we have from Mecca. In other words,
Okay,
if I
so
could present,
few doesn't mean all. Few
There are
can
only few.
also include some.
there are only few.
So there's few pagan inscriptions,
No. There are only few inscriptions.
and all of them have to be monotheistic.
No. There are only few inscriptions in and around Mecca, signifying, essentially conveying to us that Mecca wasn't a significant city before the time of the emergence of Islam.
Okay.
Wasn't a significant city at all, and so the entire idea of Hajj and so on are fantasy ideas. Now, point number two is even the few inscriptions
But
we have
Muslims
of
don't claim there was like Hajj, and like Umrah. This came like in roughly in the ninth year of the Medina phase of the Prophet.
So you believe
Hajj and
there was no
Umrah.
Hajj to Mecca pre-Islam?
Not like what we have today.
No, so clearly there was no international Hajj to Mecca.
Not in the way that we have it
Well,
today. or the
today we
way-
have international Hajj, and if not in the way today, and in a way that it doesn't even show signs of
The-
inhabitation,
the policy,
clearly there
yes.
could not have been Hajj there.
There was pilgrimage, but not like in the way that
No
we have it
inscription
like
evidence.
international.
Everywhere else we have no inscription evidence.
Okay, we can look more into it and see what
Absolutely.
the evidence.
I'd like you to follow up on that.
Okay.
Every evidence inscription-wise tells us Mecca could not have even be even a primitive city, let alone a prominent city.
Okay.
Impossible. So, number one. Number two, the other point I want to make is, before Islam is supposed to have started, for about a century or more, across the Arabian Peninsula, not just near Mecca, across the Arabian Peninsula, all evidence suggests to the fact of an existing monotheism only. In other words, Meccan idolaters could not have existed during the time of supposed Muhammad. Impossible, according to archaeological evidence. So, in other words, your
That's
idea
not
of
what Jalad
Muhammad,
says.
One second.
That's what you say. Yeah.
No, Jalad clearly says there was a religious.
But he doesn't say there's no polytheist just based upon the archaeological findings. Just because there's no inscriptions like prior to the 5th century of any pagans, doesn't mean that the pagans didn't exist. It's just we don't have any inscriptions.
Nas, I think you're misrepresenting Jalad's work. Jalad is very clear. For about a century
Just
plus.
like we don't have any inscriptions of Abraham, but it doesn't mean Abraham
That's not
didn't
the same.
exist.
No. For about a century or more before the time of Islam, we have plenty of inscriptions.
Of
We have
Abraham.
plenty. No. We have plenty of inscription in the Arabian Peninsula.
Do we have
but
any
all of
inscriptions
them
of Adam and
pointing.
Eve?
But no, wait a second. Nas, you're not. Now, I don't know why you're doing this. I'm talking about a simple fact. You're going around and trying to,
It doesn't
No,
follow.
the red herring. What you're talking about is red herring. My point is simple.
for most
Would you
people,
please
we don't have
would you
inscriptions.
please address my point? My point is simple. For about a century or more, before Islam is supposed to have started, across the Arabian Peninsula, there was only monotheism as per plenty of inscriptions available
You're arguing from
across the
silence.
peninsula.
You're
No
arguing from-
evidence for. I'm arguing
From silence.
Well, no, you know what the argument from silence is? If I told you that it doesn't exist, my point is inscriptions exist. There's no silence.
But your
Inscriptions
point is the
exist.
polytheists didn't exist. So you argue from
Inscriptions
silence.
exist.
But you're saying there's
Nas,
no
give me
inscriptions for
one
the
good reason.
polytheists.
Give me one good reason why only monotheists would inscribe, but polytheists would not. Give me one good reason. Especially if in Mecca, for example, polytheists were the dominant groups. Why would they not inscribe anything when monotheists were everywhere inscribing monotheistic material? One good reason.
We have poetry, and also
No, you're running away. I'm talking about inscriptions, epigraphy. You're talking about literary source outside of epigraphy, outside of rock inscriptions.
maybe it's still,
Give me one good reason
still to
why.
be found.
No, Nas, you told me that I'm arguing from the argument. I'm arguing from silence. I'm baffled because what I am saying is there are plenty of inscriptions, all of them monotheistic, all, and therefore Ahmad al-Jalad clearly concludes clearly
He
there
hasn't
seems...
yet
One
concluded.
second. Now let me
He's
finish.
still researching.
Nas, let me finish and I'll present a particular challenge. Please respond to that. Let me finish. Ahmad al-Jalad clearly concludes something is clearly amiss. There seems to have been a monotheistic revolution across the Arabian Peninsula to an extent. There are only monotheistic inscriptions dating from about 100 plus years across Arabia. Plenty of them only monotheistic, no polytheism. And I'm asking you, if polytheists were the predominant group, as how Islamic Harry Potter story projects itself to be, projects. The question is, why would polytheists not write when the monotheists were writing everywhere? Why wouldn't they do?
It hasn't yet been discovered. Maybe it will be discovered in the future. Just like we didn't have any archaeological evidence for David for a very long time. And then later on, we did discover some inscription of the name David.
Nas, the problem is, I'm sure you understand the challenge I'm raising. When evidence, archaeological evidence was not yet found for King David, the Tel Dan stele, before that time, there wasn't many archaeological inscriptions of anyone. And so it was reasonable. You would expect to reasonably find inscriptions corresponding to more prominent people first. Nas, you would expect to find inscriptions corresponding to more prominent people first. That is the reasonable expectation. Doesn't happen all the time.
King David wasn't prominent.
He was, but the point is, from his time, less prominent people weren't identified first before him. That didn't happen. More prominent people were identified first. Tel Dan stele came about first. Less prominent people
David
later. My point is, if in Arabian Peninsula, in a Meccan Islamic Arabia, the Harry Potter Islamic Arabia, the prominent people were polytheists. Prominent enough that Muhammad had to run away. Hijrah, what you would call hijrah. That was a running away for life. That is how prominent polytheists were, according to Islamic Harry Potter lies. My point is, if that is how prominent they were,
you see, when you say Harry Potter lies, you've already exposing your bias. You've already made up your mind, and you're not willing to look at any evidence.
Please give me any evidence.
Any evidence that's to the contrary.
Please give me.
You try to come up with any hypothesis.
Nas, you need to give me evidence.
Even if it's irrational.
Nas, you're just giving me...
and any evidence that I do give, you'll just say, oh, it's not evidence. I've given you no evidence. That's all you say.
Plenty of inscriptions.
Okay, so we said what we wanted to say. Let's just end there. We can conclude.
Sure.
You
but
won the debate.
Next time, please
lost,
bring evidence, please.
Okay, I didn't bring any evidence. Okay.
Next time. Right. Nas, please bring evidence next time. I want to really know.
I did bring evidence, but
no, you didn't.
You've already made up your mind about Harry Potter lies.
Well, I am researching
and all of this kind of stuff.
Bring me evidence commensurate with what
You're not really doing sincere research.
I am doing sincere research. You're showing me a text which doesn't mention Muhammad by name, doesn't mention Mecca by name.
Quran that mentions him by name.
Doesn't mention. It used the word messenger.
But the Quran does mention Muhammad.
Did it in all the passages you've read so far?
And where it mentions the name Muhammad, you did also say, "Oh, maybe this is another Muhammad," and that just goes back to your life. You've made up your mind. You've come with the conclusion.
In the passages you've read so far,
you're not willing to
was
look
the
at
word Mecca used at all?
It refers to polytheists.
Mecca?
Arab polytheists.
It doesn't mention Arab?
It's in Arabic language.
The text is in Arabic language,
speaking to people
but we
who
agreed,
speak Arabic as their first language.
Which is not the case for Jews who also lived in Arabian Peninsula.
Jews also spoke Arabic in order to get by.
You use the term first language. For Jews, Hebrew would have been the first language, not Arabic.
You can be a Jew ethnically, and you can have English as your first language, as your mother tongue.
Are you talking about
Hebrew was dead anyway for 1,000 years. It was only revived recently with the rise of Israel.
Nas, I'm not talking about Candies.
How many Jews spoke Hebrew anyway in the 7th century in the world?
How many Jews what?
How many Jews spoke Hebrew in the 7th century? Because the Hebrew language was dead for about 1,000 years.
How do you know the Hebrew language was dead in the 7th century? What evidence have you got?
It was revived with the state of Israel.
No, it was revived in a particular way
In 1924.
In the 20th century, I agree. But how do you know in the 7th century it was dead? How do you know?
That's what I was actually asking you. How do you know that the
No,
Jews
how do you know?
spoke
No, you were telling
Hebrew
me
at the
that it was
7th
dead,
century?
that they couldn't have spoken Hebrew as their first language. I'm asking you for evidence. You are just giving me Islamic fantasy ideas.
Okay, then
No evidence whatsoever.
Refer to those people who know the history of the Hebrew language.
Refer to what?
Academics who are aware of the history of the Hebrew
Are
language.
you saying there are academics who clearly demonstrate that Hebrew was dead in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that you should research it more and see
No, I'm asking
whether
you.
Hebrew.
I'm asking you. You said Arabic
Okay, so
was their first language.
So I'm saying research whether Hebrew.
But you don't
did
have evidence to
exist in
present
the
today.
7th century.
You don't have evidence to present that
Well,
Hebrew
I'm
was dead in the
appealing-
7th century.
I'm just appealing to academics.
No, which
who
one?
are
You're not
experts.
presenting anyone.
So people who know the history of the Hebrew language.
Anyone, you're not giving
So
anyone.
like Encyclopedia Britannica, for example.
Not giving anyone, not any particular research. So to claim that
Well, I just said Encyclopedia Britannica, and now you're saying I'm not giving anyone in particular.
Merely by
But
naming.
this is what I mean. You come with a bias.
No,
You've already come with
Nas,
your mind
I'm
made
a
up.
bit surprised.
so-
I'm asking you
But
for.
anyway, we
I'm
can
asking,
agree to
I'm
disagree. You can speak to the camera. You can say that look, Nazam won the way, and he can't answer
No,
my
that's
questions.
not the
He
point.
gave
I'm
no
sure you're not
evidence.
going away, Nas,
Yeah.
and I'm sure.
We'll speak another time.
Let's speak another time.
I'd like to
Sure.
speak to some other people. so,
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
okay.
But good to see you,
All right,
Nas.
thank you, yeah.
Yeah, God's
We'll speak
blessings.
again.
But please, more details next time. Let's catch up.
Okay, hopefully. yeah.
Muhammad, Meccan pagan Arabs.
Okay.
Please.